I would like to welcome you to this introductory or prologue episode to this brand new podcast. Welcome to the old code. I don't feel it necessary to give you my name. I don't feel it necessary to give you my background or anything along those lines. I just want to convey ideas and ruminations that I've been kind of wrestling with and pushing forward lately. I've needed a place in the recent years to contemplate and to verbally digest certain things. I want to clarify a couple things that this podcast is and is not. Number one, my reason for not giving my name or my background or anything like that is I don't think the internet or the world needs more personalities. I really don't. We have enough people who are basically just giving their best take on the world. We have enough people who are putting their own colored glasses. I'm just gonna throw people under the bus. I think that people like Andrew Tate or Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson, I'm sure that these people, first of all, I don't think Andrew Tate has anything good to offer the world, but people like Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson, they provide a platform to give different biases and heuristics and ways to view the world. That's really summed up just in them being internet personalities. I have no issue personally with these men, but I find that the way that internet personalities develop, it develops into a sort of cult-like following where everything that these people say is gospel truth, and so I want to avoid that in any way, shape, or form. First of all, I know I'm starting off with 0 listeners. There's no one on the other end of this, so whoever does hear this, please know that my identity does not matter. I'm just wanting to communicate ideas, and I'm just wanting to communicate truths. The purpose of this really is to pursue truth, goodness, and beauty, wherever it may be, which leads me to my next goal for this podcast, or what this podcast isn't, and that is I want to convey that this is an intentional pursuit of art or truth or goodness and beauty. I want this to be an intentional place of meditation as opposed to just more content being pumped out into the world. The internet seems to be full of content, and that's all it really is. When you think of an art museum or any sort of museum, you don't think of the stuff in it as content, though it fills up the space. It is content, but it's not the way we're viewing content. When you think of your family's old junk drawer, or the way that milk fills up a milk jug, that's the contents of the drawer or the jug. And that's all that content really is today, is it's just filling up space. That's all it is. We have empty space and we need to fill it, and that's all that 99.9% of Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, Spotify, music, art, AI-generated images, or it's all content instead of that intentional pursuit of truth, goodness, and beauty. And I would say that that is the third element that I want to highlight. So the first being, this is not a place for personality, this is a place for meditation. The second being, this is not content, this is pursuit. And really, the third is the fact that I want to fight against So you have, I want to fight against modernity in a very odd sense. In classical terms, you have truth, goodness, and beauty, and those are the transcendentals. You have that which is most true, that which is most good, and that which is most beautiful, and that's God. But in a godless modernity, what we see today, you don't have truth, you have perspective. You don't have goodness, you don't have goodness, you just have an agreement. And finally, you don't have beauty, you just have appreciation. The idea is all subjective. All of these things are subjectively actualized instead of inherent to the thing. There's no inherent truth to Scripture, there's no inherent goodness to love, and there's no inherent beauty to the world. It's all imposed. Truth is all about perspective. It's all about what does the other person see. Goodness is all about moral imposition. It's all about what values we place upon the world as opposed to what the world inherently possesses and inherently what God has imposed upon the world. And then beauty is completely left to the wayside, as it's just really, I hate the term beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It is such a disservice to what is beautiful, because while there is a subjective element to appreciation, there's nothing subjective about beauty itself. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that this is a space to pursue those three actual inherent aspects of reality, which are truth, goodness, and beauty. And finally, what I want to say is the overall structure of this is going to be sporadic. I can't promise a consistency as far as uploads. I can't promise a consistency as far as the content that I will be dealing with, the arguments that I'll be making. I would like to develop an overarching structure to this, but that's really part of the intentionality behind this. This is not meant to be just another TV show. This isn't meant to be another serial program. This is meant to be intentional meditations on things that happen to come up for me. I study a lot of different things. I study theology, I study philosophy, I study history, art, literature, and so a lot of the time I just have a lot of different things that come into my head. Most recently, I did a paper on modernity and gender roles. Modernity and gender roles and all of the above. And I would like to be able to do an episode on that sometime soon. I would like to be able to do a episode on the chief virtues of what modernity holds. But in all of that, I don't want this to be a lamentation. I want this to be a place to pursue hope. I want to be able to look at how we got to where we are, but maybe if we can approach with strength and some intellectual humility, I'd like to be able to propose certain directions that we could also go. I'd like to be able to say that the world has existed for a very long time, and it's existed in a lot of different forms, and no matter how much lamentation we have or how much lamentation we feel, the goal is not to sit in that sorrow and depression, because really, if you do that, then you're just gonna you either become either nihilistic or an absurdist, meaning if you don't laugh, you're gonna cry. We don't want to sit in a world without hope. We want to sit in a mindset which strives for better. The only personal thing I'd like to mention is that I have a little daughter. And when I look at her, I don't want to leave a world behind that has no hope. I want to leave behind in my wake a world that's a little bit better. And if I can't leave behind a world that's a little bit better, I want to leave behind a worldview that's a little bit better. And really, I want to leave behind that worldview through a Christ-centered lens. So I want to make that abundantly clear. This is not in any way ambiguous in its theological or philosophical rootings. This is a Christian pursuit of truth, goodness, and beauty. I really think that should do well enough for an introduction to this podcast. If you have any questions, I will attach to the show notes an email that you can reach me at. And I hope you are doing well. God bless.